when we were talking about we were talking about the title celebrations, and you were saying you can't help but feel joy for people, and that was the feeling when Newcastle won the League Cup. Yeah. But the question at that stage was, can they build on it? Can they use that as a springboard to a really strong finish in the Premier League, or will they feel as though, that's it? They have that kind of sense of relief and sense of achievement for the season. But look, they find themselves in third place in the table, and they're putting together not just impressive results and nicking 1-0 wins, they're putting together really impressive performances as well. Well,
you do believe that if they're going to try and force their way into the top four, this is a massive opportunity for them. They can actually, with Arsenal obviously with things on their mind, they can actually really have a push for second and get in it, because I think if Newcastle are trying to move on the trajectory that their team's going at the moment, they do need to finish in the top four, and they do need to then add to that squad, keep players like Isak and bring players in. I know that someone like Jacob Murphy's been unfortunate in the way that he was the name that kept being bandied about. What's Jacob Murphy still doing here? If we were able to spend money, he would be one of the players that probably be out. And look how great he's played. They do need to go to the next level of player. And it's vitally important for me, if I'm totally honest, that Newcastle's get in the top four and then start to progress.
Because you said it's vitally important for you that Newcastle get to the top four and progress.
Because Alan's his mate.
Why are you so invested?
Because I just think that, obviously I do a lot of Newcastle, with our lot, but the fact I know what it means to that town, not what it means to everybody, but that again would be a place where if they, like you saw when they did win the League Cup, how happy you are for a team. I'd be very, very happy for Newcastle to do that, but they do need to be going to that level.
I agree with you, because I think when you love football, like we were talking about before, and you watch, you sit at home sometimes and you're looking forward to a Champions League night, or you've got to go to a game. Newcastle, at home to Madrid, whoever it may be. Yes. I'm not disrespect some of the other teams, but they're proper, aren't they? Proper fans who appreciate.
Like Villa being back in the Champions League this season. It felt like every game was an occasion.
Exactly that. And I agree with Wright. They do need to bolster the squad, but they've got a really tough run in.
Yes.
So they're going to have to just keep kicking on and keep it. They might not win every game, but it's important when you're in that running not to get beaten.
But that's the thing now.
Yeah.
It's really tight, isn't it? Look, so they've got Chelsea, Arsenal. And Brighton. So there's Arsenal away, Brighton away, Chelsea home. That's a tough 3 games,
it's a tough 3 games. Yeah. And the thing is that what needs to happen, hopefully Eddie back being in the dressing room, what needs to happen is that they need to focus now on doing that. They have to get into that top 4, Kels.
Yeah. And there's big games coming up for all of those teams who are pushing for European places. And even though it feels like Villa have stuttered slightly, and then there was the defeat in the FA Cup semi-final, which we'll talk about in a second. But despite all of that, there's that big game that we keep coming back to between Forest and Chelsea on the last day of the season. And that's going to be that could be decisive by that stage.
The thing is that I saw Forest obviously in the semi-finals, and they looked very deflated, to the point where you're thinking you've still got work to do in the league now. Now it would have been a brilliant if it would have been brilliant if they came out on top in that semi-final, but I feel that they really do need to get over that quickly.
It feels as though those two teams have had the toughest weekend, certainly in terms of their Champions League qualification, because the teams above them have won, and in terms of the FA Cup and being out of that competition. It's now starting to look like that's what they've got left now with these final 4 games.
Villa are the ones I fear for the most. I think they've just given so much this season, and they've got 2 tough games against Fulham and Bournemouth, both looking for that last European place.
Still amongst it.
And then they've got 2 teams in this bottom half, but they're Spurs and United, so they're difficult games in themselves. And I just wonder, after that humbling at Wembley at the weekend, can they just show enough character to get over? Because when you look at it, it's been a brilliant season, hasn't it?
Yeah.
They've gone deep into Europe. They're fighting for Champions League place. They've got the semi-final of the FA Cup, and there's a bit of disappointment around the place. They just need to pick themselves back up.
And the thing is, when you look at the table, there could be as many as 8 places through the league itself. That potentially, certain things need to happen, could be as many as 10 Premier League sides in European competition next season. So it means that places all the way down, certainly to 8th in the league, they're up for grabs in terms of the Conference League. And look, if a Manchester City were to qualify for the Conference League, it would not be a good season for them. But for Fulham, you've been in European competition with Fulham. That's huge.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? I mean, for Chelsea, if they end up in Europa League, they're not going to be happy. it's all about priority.
Well, Dan, right as well. And when you're looking at the money that Chelsea is spending to be where they are, I think it's in Chelsea. They have to be in the Champions League with what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that they're the ones under a lot of pressure, and they've got a tough run. And like we just saw as well. Depending on how Liverpool are feeling now that it's done, I'm sure that Liverpool is that a game. Is that game at home to Chelsea?
At Chelsea next weekend.
Chelsea?
Yeah.
So it depends on how much the boys how much they've been celebrating.
But also Chelsea feels like it's quite an unsettled club at the moment. There are grumblings amongst the supporters about the way that this season has gone. There were definitely points under Maresca where they felt hopeful, and as that's fizzled away, they've looked at Leicester last season and thought
I know a lot. I live in around that area.
Home form.
Honestly, they're fuming.
Yeah,
because they saw a glimpse of what this side can be. But ultimately, whether you blame the manager or not, I think I can't think of this ever happening before, where a team has decided all eggs in young players, you know, and we're going to build this young team together without a sprinkling of experience. So inevitably, you're going to get this. It's like, what did you expect?
I know.
When things are going well, great. They all want the ball and they're playing. They've got pace, the dynamic. They make chances, but they're wide open at the back. Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know, and the only thing I'd say about Maresca, where I'd put blame on him, I've seen Chelsea a lot, they're very one-dimensional. You know, we talk about United, yesterday they were just playing out, constantly getting caught, but Chelsea don't mix up their playing.
No.
They're you know what you're going to get.
And then what happens is that someone like Cole Palmer gets a lot more attention.
Yeah.
You're stopping the supply line to him, and so all of a sudden, bam, it all falls down. This is why you look at them, and I know they've won a few games, and it's very scrappy, and that. But I think that right now, I think they're in tin hat mode, and let's just get these done and then go from there.
They seem to have got a little bit more form back over recent weeks. I think Nicholas Jackson coming back. I know he gets a lot of criticism, but what he does, like you say about Cole Palmer, he stretches that play and he allows Cole Palmer in that 10 a little bit more space to create and things. But
Good finish.
They might just have enough for me, Chelsea. They've had a huge dip off. I think they might be able to just get back.
Like Danny said there, for me, Kels as well, they do need. Remember, they signed Thiago Silva a few years, and they need experience. Whether they're going to have it in the defence, midfield, and up front, not sure they'll get that up front. But I think the midfield and defensive, they do need an experienced player to to let them know what's going on the pitch.
I just don't think it's going to change though, the mentality.
Well, I heard somebody talking about Chelsea and saying that their policy actually wasn't just to sign young players. It was about signing the right player and that they had been interested in Van Dijk as a potential if he were not going to. And it's not to say that was going to happen or necessarily that the interest would be reciprocated. But it maybe does hint that there are noises coming out of Chelsea that, yes, they are interested in bringing in particularly an experienced centre-back. And that's when you're talking about their defensive vulnerabilities and lack of experience, that would be the sensible one, as Wright said, like they had with Thiago Silva.
They've also had a lot of injuries, in fairness, in that back four.
They've got...
Yeah, but injuries to whom that you would rely on or hang your hat on? Badia Shield? Dazazi went out on loan? Colwell? He's done okay. He needs a partner.
Yeah, Colwell needs someone to bring him along, doesn't he?
Madarabia?
What's the one that came from Leicester?
Fofana.
I like Fofana.
He's played him right back.
I think Fofana's a very good player.
I'm not sure.
Unfortunately for him, the injuries that he's had, we can't see it. We can't see it continually. So you can't count on him. I think again, it's somebody that they're going to have to.
They haven't got Saliba, Diaz.
No.
But that is where they need to strengthen, because I quite like the three in midfield. The midfield in three are good: Caicedo, Enzo, and Cole Palmer.
And Lavia.
That's a nice balance. Lavia,
he's the one. I think that once he comes in and he's settled in there, then that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, and there's certainly no problems up front for Chelsea, especially if Nicholas Jackson starts scoring for them. But it's all to play out for in terms of the battle for Europe at the other end.
At the other end,
because it's all done and dusted. Because now Ipswich are confirmed as well. They were all but down last week, and now it is official that Ipswich will be back in the Championship next season. It's the first time that the three promoted